I'm Bobby with Connect Work Tools, part of the Exodus Global Group, and we're actually going to go through how to install a breaker today. When your breaker arrives, the first thing you're going to do is inventory it. Did you get the right breaker? You got your tool bits? Did I get all the things that I wanted? It comes with extra tools. Did I get my tools? Make sure everything's there before the truck leaves. There is a delivery sheet you can fill out. That's actually in the manual. Unload it, whether you unload it using the lifting eye or a forklift. When you get it off the truck, put blocks down so you can set it on something, you can pick it up again. And then I'm going to actually look at the actual bolts on the bracket. Are all the bolts there? Are they tight? I'm going to look at the greaser. Is the greaser intact? Is the grease tube in there? And then look at your grease zerks. There's a manual one to grease it manually. There's a grease fill to fill that grease tube, and there's an adjustment if you want more grease or less grease. Make sure none of that is missing. I always look inside the bushing area. Make sure there's no rags, nobody stuck anything in there for shipping purposes. And while you're looking in there, there is lube grooves in there. Wear markers, they call them. There's a bunch of different phrases. But those actually are for cooling and grease. If those are worn back 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on the size breaker, that has hit the wear limit of that bushing and most likely the tool. Also, when you're inspecting it, make sure you have the correct pin size for that carrier. You know, whether 80 millimeter, 90, 100, whatever size carrier you got, always validate that those are correct and they actually fit. Let's get this thing pinned on. When you start to set up a breaker, you're always going to refer to a manual. The first thing you're going to do is take the bolts out of your pins. One pin will be for your stick and one will be for your bucket linkage. Pull them back so they don't protrude inside. Walk your machine up with a flagman, of course, and line those pins up. Push those pins in, reinstall that retaining bolt. The CH series, which is the oil-fired versions of the breakers, come with a service kit, so you'll have specialty tooling to work on that breaker. If you have to install the tool bit, there's oval plugs. You're going to take them out. There's a plug on either side. Take those plugs off. There's a snap ring there. Take the snap ring off. One tool that's in your service kit is the knockout bar. You knock the retaining pin dowel out. The retainers have a 1/4-inch bolt in your service kit. With that long bolt, you can pull up your retaining bits, set them on the ground, and at this point, you're going to put some grease on that tool bit. Now, when you grease the tool, you're going to grease the bushing areas and a little bit in the retaining pin area, but never the top where it contacts the piston. And you don't want oil or grease getting in there. And at that point, when you slide the tool bit in, whether you use a sling off a forklift or a service truck, you're going to get a strap, find your middle point, slide it into the bushing, and as you go in, you're going to have to align the cutouts in that tool bit. And once they line up, you can drop them right in. When you start to install your dowel, you're going to use that bolt again. You're going to raise that retaining pin up about 1/4 of an inch because it goes too low. It goes in by hand, reinstall your snap ring, put your plugs in, and that tool bit is done. The manual grease fittings that I talked about, I'm going to actually manually grease this to make sure that it's purged, and you're going to get grease when you need it. If you're going to be manually greasing this, you always got to remember that breaker needs down pressure. That tool bit has to be pushed back against that piston. You don't want to get grease in that void. If you get grease in that void and then you go to fire that breaker, it pushes it back and it could damage the breaker seals. So when you're ready to flow out the machine, the breaker's going to have hoses already on it. Connect the end of the hose up to the shutoff valve. Don't turn the shutoff valve on yet. From the breaker, you're going to remove those hoses and attach that to your flow meter. Once you get that all set up, you actually can go turn the shutoff valve on. Now at that point, you're going to get in the cab, go into the monitor. Each carrier is different. Some need passcodes, some need laptops. But what you're going to do at that point is set your values, the flow, the pressure, the back pressure. All these things are actually in your manuals. Always refer to your manuals. This particular breaker needs 2,900 PSI and 42 to 52. We picked 48 gallons for this particular setup. So when you're in the monitor setting these things up, one-way flow is the only flow for a breaker because it goes to the breaker, to the tank. Two-way flow is for two-way function, whether it's open, closed, left or right. You don't want that. You want one-way flow. At that point, you go back out to your flow meter, have the operator fire it up, engage that breaker. They'll have a gauge snapped on the side. That is for checking the back pressure. The higher pressure is no good. So we're gonna make sure that's 145 or less. Now you're gonna start to crank the knob in on the flow meter. So when you first look down, you should see zero pressure and almost zero flow. That's a good thing. So as you start to crank this in, this is gonna start to sense this load that's coming on this circuit. You're gonna see things start to jump around. Flow will come up, pressure's starting to change. So what I do first is go to 500 pounds, I look at pressure, I look at flow. And that about at this point should be exactly what you dialed up within a couple gallons, because they do vary about a gallon or two. Go to 1,000, I look at it again, make sure nothing's going wrong. I go to 1,500, I check it again, and I actually record this on the PDI sheet because it's also part of warranty. You're gonna have to write all this stuff down. Then you go to 2,000. That's around where the breaker operates at. So I wanna make sure there's nothing going on the machine side. Then I go from 2,000 to 25. So now your cracking pressure on your carrier is when that relief starts to crack open. You're gonna hear whining on the flow meter and some hissing. Keep turning that knob in. You'll see the flow start to drop, and I turned the knob all the way in. I had 5 gallons at basically nothing, so this is going right to tank. Now you back it back out, and then you're good to go. So when you flow this machine, it is for this machine only. That breaker can come off that and go on a different machine, different manufacturer. That is fine, but you have to set that machine up as well. After you get done setting your flow and you're happy with all that and you recorded those numbers, now it's time to turn the machine off, close your shut-off valves, and at this point bleed off any hydraulic pressures that you have, and disconnect your flow meter. Connect those hoses back to the breaker. Before you open the valve, you want to take the cover off the left side. It's about a 5-inch plug. Take it off, and there's an Allen plug in there. Take that out, and we give you a test fitting in the service kit that comes with the breaker. Install that, and then we can check on the operating pressure when we're actually running the breaker. Now we can open the valves and go out and test it on a steel plate or something that gives hard feedback, because you want that operating pressure on something hard. It gives the best feedback. It can't be soft ground. And once you got out and validated that, running it on whatever you picked, you can actually shut the breaker down, close your valves, take that fitting out, reinstall your rubber plug, and you're ready for work.